I let ChatGPT redesign this e-commerce brand's welcome flow email from scratch, and here's what happened. So I just bought from this badass athletic brand called OMORPHO. Their products are very unique. They're very innovative. Their marketing is pretty slick. The way that they put together their website, their social media, it's awesome. But their email marketing sucks. Like it's very bare bones. So in this video, I'm going to break down why their email marketing is most likely flopping from just taking a look at what they have set up, how I tried to fix this with ChatGPT in just 30 minutes, and why I still had to personally redesign everything with my whole team from scratch with a whole new strategy approach. So if you're running an e-com brand and you're relying on AI tools to do your welcome flows for you, then you're going to want to watch this before you do a disservice to your brand. So let's dive into my computer. I'm going to walk you through exactly what we did here and why we did it. So right here, this is my Figma dashboard. I'm just going to really briefly go into the actual original welcome email that they had, which you can see right here, versus their ChatGPT email here in the middle, and then the Blossom redesign here on the right. So let's jump into my little Gamma document that I've been putting together right here, just so you can see. Let me hit present. So this is nice and clean. So check this out. Right now, you can see the original, the ChatGPT, and the Blossom design email here on the left, center, and right. And I want to really briefly just go into why all of this stuff matters, like your welcome flow, your automations, the way that you actually portray your brand in terms of retention marketing. And the bottom of the barrel sort of distillation of what I'm going to cover here is that 90% of brands actually blow the first impression in email, right? Now, we have to understand that welcome emails, when it comes to retention marketing or email marketing as a whole for e-com brands, even service-based businesses, actually have the highest open rate, right? They actually set the tone for the relationship. They set the tone for who your brand is and how you communicate with your customers. And this is ultimately what people, this is like that first impression that people get when they first see your brand. So it's not just about aesthetics. It's actually about conversion psychology, right? If we approach the welcome flow or just any retention marketing touch point with your customers or your potential customers, the way that OMORPHO did it, we're going to see people drop off because we're not putting across that identity, that brand identity, that flavor, that touch, that ultimately is what separates you from everybody else in the market, right? They have great branding. They've got a visually stunning site, right? If we go to their website right here, they've got a really good site. They've got beautiful CRO, our collections straight for the different categories: fitness and strength, sport and endurance, perfect complement for looks, why gravity sportswear. They talk a little bit about the benefits. They've got a decent pop-up with a 10% on there. They've got some social proof I've seen on, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Men's Health. They've got really cool imageries. They've got really simple, punchy micro copy that gets the point across and ultimately sell. They talk about the benefits, why it works, what it is, right? They have social proof for many different customers and people who are raving about the brand, right? Their website is good. If you look at their actual social media, it's popping. They've got really good content. They're really pushing the product. They're building that community. They've got a decent amount of followers. But ultimately, their welcome email, it just doesn't close the loop, right? So how do we take this to a little bit of a better version in ChatGPT and then what we ultimately redesign? That's what I'm going to be breaking down here. So I'm going to talk about first what not to do when we talk about the brand email that they currently have set up. I'm going to talk about how AI is getting close, but it's not quite there yet. You have a lot of marketers raving about AI and how it's going to replace everybody. And while I am a big proponent, I'm a big believer that we have to be AI first, in the sense that we have to welcome AI. We have to really leverage AI so that we can 10x our productivity, 10x our efficiency and our output. But ultimately, we can't blindly trust AI. And I talk about this with my team all the time, where we really champion the use of it, but we want to do it in a way where it's responsible and where we're not just blindly, trusting Daddy GPT with everything in our lives without questioning or first even putting thought into exactly why we're doing things, right? And then I want to break down the anatomy of what a high converting welcome flow looks like when we talk about the redesign that we did. And then finally, I'm going to show you the actual redesign that fixes everything. So let's actually go ahead and break down the original email. Now, taking a look at the email as a whole, you can see that it's very plain text. It's got some imagery, it's got 2 images, but it's really just a wall of text, and it's lacking a lot of personality, right? The tone is neutral, it's safe, it's bland. Thanks for signing up, and I can open this up here a little bit so you can see, but thanks for signing up to be an OMORPHO insider. Not everyone loves receiving marketing emails, but we do things a bit differently. Here's what you can expect from our weekly newsletter. And you're just hit with this giant wall of text that ultimately, we're in a society, we're in a generation where people's attention spans are much quicker. We've got TikTok brain, we've got the attention span of goldfish. It's 5-7 seconds max. If you don't catch me in that header, which is where we really talk about the top of fold, the above the fold, this section right here, if you don't capture someone, it's game over. They're bouncing, they're leaving. You're competing for inbox space with hundreds of other brands. So if I don't pop open this email and see something stunning that really sticks out and grabs my attention, I'm cooked, basically. So there's no urgency. There's no real call to action logic. The 10% off code is buried. It's kind of treated like an afterthought. So you can see it right here. It's like you got to go through all of this, talking about things that people don't really care about, to be honest. If I'm signing up for a 10% on your website, I don't care about member specific promotion or fun community stories or workout inspiration or anything like that. And guys, I really champion brevity and just being straight to the point. I don't like to sugarcoat things. And again, I do think this brand is absolutely incredible and they're crushing it. I just want to be very transparent, because you're not going to get any value from me if I say, you could have done a better job here. No, people are signing up for a 10%. That's the first thing that you should give them right here. Okay. There's just no storytelling. There's no emotional hook, right? This is such a unique product, and just the visuals of the brand itself really capture people. So we really have to bring in that storytelling element and really hook people in with that emotional sort of element of what your brand is and what your products are. Why do you guys exist? What's your mission? I didn't find anything here really. You talk about the G vest, you talk about your product, how it's 5 and 8, 10 pounds for men and women, but who are you guys? Why do you guys exist? What is your mission, right? That's something that's really missing here. There's too much spacing. There's very poor sort of visual hierarchy in how we actually strategize and set this up. Big text gap. It doesn't guide the eyes. The product benefits are vague. You talk a lot about it on your actual website, but in the email, there's actually nothing that actually talks about the benefits. So yeah, at the end of the day, the summary here is, they sell a premium innovation-driven fitness product, but this email kind of made it feel like it's like a clearance section. Those emails you get from Target or Bloomingdale's where it's they're just trying to move products. That's kind of what it felt like here. And again, no disrespect to the brand. I think you guys are doing an absolutely incredible job. But ultimately, let's dive into the ChatGPT example, what we did here, and ultimately why this still doesn't work. So let's take a look really quick at what we crafted with ChatGPT. You can kind of see here, it has a beautiful header. Welcome to Gravity Training. It's got an image there, which is AI, which is one of the flaws of AI is you can give it an image, but ultimately it's gonna put a veil of AI image generation over it, even though I fed them a perfect image. And I'm gonna dive into the actual breakdown of what I did here, but really quickly, you can just see how we created the different sections here. And it's a little bit more on brand in terms of the copy, train smarter, not just harder. We talk about the G vest, we have some icons, some benefits here, but ultimately this is still lacking. It's got better structure, it flows more logically. You got improved tone, of course. It's a bit more assertive and branded, which is ultimately what I feel the brand is all about, that confident sort of fitness vibe to it. We've got good subheadlines, and we've got a better visual hierarchy as we break things down, clear sections. It's easier to scan. But ultimately, the problem with AI is that it's still too stiff. It still reads a little bit AI-ish. There's no soul, there's no tension, there's no arc that really takes people over the edge and back down towards that call to action to get them to convert. And it lacks that micro copy precision. It feels a little bit robotic. There's no layered psychology to it. It tells, but it doesn't sell, which is what I always say to my team. And ultimately, I give it a B minus. We're charging a premium price for a premium product here. I bought $100 tank top from them, so it's not cheap ultimately. But for a premium brand, these types of emails are just not going to cut it, right? So Again, let's just dive in here into the ChatGPT version. You can see it's a very big upgrade here from the actual original email, but it's still missing that sauce. And if you want the chat transcript of exactly what we did here to actually create this ChatGPT email for this particular brand, then just go ahead and comment chat below and I'll send it over to you. But essentially, and I'm just going to go into this very briefly, what I did was I gave it the original email. I said, I want to redesign the current email for this brand. Here's their website. And then I asked it for a prompt. So it created the whole prompt right here. And what I did was I basically fed that right back to ChatGPT, had it create the actual section breakdowns, which is ultimately what you see in the redesign that I built here. So it created each one of these sections individually. You can see that there's 5 different sections here. And then ultimately, I just had it create the images based on these prompts. So I went ahead and created this one. Let's go ahead and generate the first image of this section. And this is what it created. Again, you can see that the images are off. So I asked it to use this image right here, but ultimately you can see that it just created an AI rendered version of this image right here. So again, that's one of the flaws of AI is that, for regulatory reasons, it uses an AI generated image, even though you give it a real image. But ultimately, you can see I give it prompt by prompt, section by section, and then I actually go in here and I start to make fundamental tweaks. So specific sections that I want to replace, things that I want to redo. Let's change the color on this. Let's change the font on this. Let's change the copy from this to this. And then ultimately, that's where we ended up with where we are now. And you can see some of my frustrations creating something, just change the color to yellow, which is not on brand. And ultimately, I had to create the entire email. But that's essentially what it generated right here. And I just threw this into Figma, added very, very small elements to it, like these blended sections, these gradient sections. But ultimately, that's what it created. Now, it's not perfect. It still needs a lot of work. Now, if this wasn't a premium brand and this was, a bootstrap business that we're trying to build some sort of product, then this might fly. This could be okay, at least in the beginning. But ultimately, I don't think AI is perfect, and I don't think it's at a place where we can just blindly rely on it and just piece together an entire welcome flow email, let alone an entire automation or flow for a specific brand. So let's go ahead and get to the juicy stuff, which is our humble attempt at recreating this brand's welcome email number 1. If I open this up right here, let's take a look at the actual email. We've got a strong opening hook. Welcome to Gravity Training. It's like, wait, what's Gravity Training in the first place? Move smarter, get stronger, no compromise. And then you see the 10% off now, which hyperlinks to the auto applied discount code on the website. But just in case, you have the 10% off right here. We've got a beautiful image here at the top. This is something that really, we specifically picked the blue colors with that blue background, created that amazing look so that, we're showcasing the men and the women, and you can see like, what is this gravity training thing? They're wearing some weird Tron outfit here, which is really dope. So immediately I'm captured, I'm drawn into the novelty of everything in terms of what gravity training is, but more specifically the actual design. First thing we do, people are signing up to 10% on your pop-up on your website. Give them what they want. Give the people what they want, God damn it. So 10% off immediately, welcome 10. Throw in a little disclaimer here, valid for 30 days, one-time use, excludes bundles and promos, claim your 10% off, and then coming down right here. And again, really showcasing the brand, really showcasing those products, showcasing those images. That's what you can see right here. And then, we say, you're in, let's get to work, less bulk, more power. Welcome to OMORPHO, where we train smarter, not just harder. We showcase images of the G-Vest. We showcase images of all their product, their tank tops, their shorts, their liners as well, which is something that we really want to showcase. Not just one core product, which is what they seem to go all in on, which is the G-Vest, but also all the other different offerings that they have as a brand. So the G-Vest adds the perfect weight to your body so your muscles work harder and you get stronger. We've got some trust icons here: get stronger, increase stamina, burn calories. And then we finish it off by saying something like gear that works as hard as you do, right? So we're building that identity, which is ultimately one of the fundamental strategy approaches that we have when redesigning welcome flows for different brands, is building the identity behind the brand. Why do people wear the brand? Why do people use your products? That's what we really want to dial in on and really lean into, because that's what's ultimately going to make people diehard fans. They're going to become, micro influencers for your brand. But most importantly, they're going to come back, they're going to keep ordering from you, and they're going to become retained customers. So you have a breakdown of everything that we did right here, but ultimately, this is what a proper first welcome flow email should look like. A brief introduction to the brand, hook people, give them what they came for, which is that 10% off, and then ultimately just introduce them to who you guys are, what you do, why you exist, and your product offerings, right? So again, I want you guys to leave with some tactical value here really quick. So I'm gonna give you guys what I personally think a welcome flow should mimic. This isn't the end all be all, but this is something that you should aim to sort of build out when you're actually creating an automation for your brand. And right here I included, this is just a welcome flow for another brand that we work with called Playa E-Bikes. They do like Burning Man bikes and things like this, rentals, purchases, etc. But essentially, email number one, it's got to have the welcome hook, right? The bold headline, the offer, the mission story, like I spoke about in the beginning. Throw in the code for that first purchase call to action. Do it immediately. And then, if you want to embed some product education or who you guys are, then that's a great place to do it. Email number two, this is where you start to build a little bit of social proof and authenticity and sort of like that market authority. If you want to start talking about your founder, your brand story, you can. Why the brand exists. You can highlight innovation or differentiation from you and other people. This especially is important for, supplement brands, or if you're selling a consumable product, or even something as simple as a clothing brand. There's millions of them. So what makes you different? If you want to include a video, GIFs are really good, UGC, to really build that social proof. And, there's other people that use our brand and they rave about it. That's a great place to do it. Email number three is where you start to introduce bestsellers and social proof. So if people come into the brand and they still haven't purchased here from welcome email 1 and 2, this is where you want to start giving them ideas and giving them an excuse, as I like to say, to actually buy the product, right? So showcase 3 or 4 products, dive into some testimonials, some reviews, some UGC, talk about what to expect, how it works, the 3 steps to get started, what you're gonna feel when you take this product, how you're gonna feel when you actually wear this, this vest. You're gonna add 5 pounds to your body. That's gonna burn more calories. That's gonna be a 15% increase in caloric expenditure. However you wanna frame it, it doesn't matter. You wanna start giving people excuses of things to buy, build more social proof, and then actually talk about why they should buy it. And then email 4 and number 5 serve as that urgency play, that last chance, that reminder. But ultimately, we want to start handling objections subconsciously. If someone makes it this far down my welcome flow email, it's not because of price, because they have the 10% discount. It's not because I don't know if it's going to fit me or whatever it is. It's because there are fundamentally underlying questions that haven't been answered, right? Returns. Is it easy to return? What if I don't like it? Sizing. How does it fit? I'm an XL in Polo Ralph Lauren. Is this going to be an XL2? Durability. Is this just a little gimmick that I'm going to buy, run it through the washer once, and it's destroyed? How long does this actually last? If I'm going to be putting $100 into a t-shirt, I want to make sure it's going to last forever. We want to educate without overwhelming. So just give them bullet point sort of handling of these objections subconsciously of questions they might have, aside from pricing, aside from any of this stuff that we talk about here, that might be keeping them from actually jumping the gun here and actually purchasing your product. And then finally, we want to build in that final reminder, your 10% off expires tonight. Add a little bit of urgency, don't go too over the top. And then just one last pitch, with a bold call to action, like get involved with the gravity trading movement or start gravity trading, something like this. We do want to layer in that 10% out throughout all of this. I didn't list it here, but it's something that should be assumed. Here we talk about the 100%, 100%, 100% off. We add it as a footer. We add it at the top of the email so that people are always reminded that they have that discount waiting for them and to get them over the line. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just a quick little recap and call to action. So if you're an e-com brand and you're relying on, stock flows or AI outputs, you're losing money. You're devaluing your brand. You are losing credibility and trust with your customers. And when someone signs up and doesn't convert, you're really just taking them through a flow that ultimately is obvious. It didn't have a good strategy behind it. But more importantly, the effort wasn't put behind the actual retention marketing build out to actually take your customers into mind and give them the respect that they deserve to understand your brand, learn about it, become part of the brand, become part of your community, etc. And look, at the end of the day, it's not about flexing. It's not about design skills. It's about respecting that customer journey, which is the most important thing. And look, guys, AI is getting close. We use it every single day, but it still needs that human touch. I do believe it will, for the most part, always need that human touch, but ultimately, it's not something we want to rely on blindly. So that's why we rebuilt this email from the ground up, and that's why we think it's the best approach. So if you want us to do the same for your brand, shoot me a DM, click the link in the description. I'll audit your Klaviyo account. I'll give you actionable insights for what I personally feel is the best way to improve your retention marketing program as a whole and increase the revenue generated from this channel. And if you like this teardown, hit like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you want to see any other brand breakdowns. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Peace.